are pleased to present broadcasts from Buena Vista Street.
This is Montgomery Morgan. Join us next week on the FF&E Classical Music Hour with yours truly, presenting all of our KBVS listeners with a special performance of George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, broadcasting live from Studio 23 here at the KBVS studios on Buena Vista Street. Joining us for next week's performance will be Paul Whiteman and his orchestra, with the composer George Gershwin on piano and Nathaniel Shildrett on clarinet. That's next week on the FF&E Classical Music Hour. George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, featuring Mr. Gershwin, Nathaniel Shildrett, and Paul Whiteman and his orchestra. Join us, won't you? This is Montgomery Morgan. Thank you, good day, and good listening.
You're listening to KBVS, the voice of Buena Vista Street. And now, KBVS is pleased to present the continuing adventures of Dr. Seymour Clearly, optometrist.
So, you're going to need eyeglasses, Mrs. Barry.
Oh dear, I've never needed them before, but I did notice that I'm not seeing things the way I used to.
Yes.
Yes, it must be my age.
Oh, that certainly can't be the case, Mrs. Barry. 29-year-old women don't often need eyeglasses.
Oh, Dr. Cleary, I'm not 29. Oh dear. I get it now. You're too kind.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Mrs. Barry.
Dr. Cleary, how long will it take before I get my eyeglasses?
Mrs. Barry, you're in luck. I can do them while you wait. I bought this new eyeglass making machine. So let me just set it up here.
Oh, well, that's certainly quite a contraption.
I've had it about a week now. I've been practicing on it, but you'll be my first patient to get eyeglasses right away. So, let's see, what style and size would you like?
I like those.
Excellent. I'll just enter that information, and I think we're ready to go. I'll just push start. Your eyeglasses, m'lady.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Clearly.
Oh, I forgot. We need to turn them on.
Huh? Oh, there. That's it. I can see clearly now, Dr. Clearly. You are such a good optimist.
That's optometrist, Mrs. Barry.
Yes, that's what I said.
Indeed, you did. Now, I have a good friend who can also check your hearing. Here's his card.
What?
Exactly. Have a good day, Mrs. Barry.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another scintillating episode of Dr. Seymour Clearly, optometrist. Programming will continue in a moment, but first, it's time you joined the 20th century and began composing your letters with the modern way. With the latest model Hunt & Peckington portable typewriter. Yes, that's right, the Hunt & Peckington portable typewriter. The finest typewriter on the market today. These small models come with all the features of a big machine, including a full-size standard keyboard, carriage return lever, and automatic ribbon reverse. So, what can you expect from a Hunt & Peckington? For the businessman, neater, clearer, and better records, statements, and correspondence. For the student, neater themes, more exacting homework and better grades. And for the housewife, more concise and clear recipes, notations, and household budgets. Buy yourself one today, and you can type the following note to yourself. What took me so long to buy this beautiful portable typewriter? Nationally known Hunt and Peckington typewriters. Buy one today. And now, the Metropolitan Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations, including KBVS on Buena Vista Street, present the Flower Street Players on the air in Scary Symphony.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, from the Tip Top Club high in the Hollywood Tower Hotel. We are pleased to bring you the music of the Anthony Fremont Orchestra. Tonight, we have a new arrangement and adaptation of Sir Edward Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance March No. 1. Take it away, boys!
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of modern music to bring you a special bulletin from the North American News Agency. Moments ago, witnesses reported seeing glowing lights emanating from Meadow Grove Cemetery. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene, and we will have an eyewitness word description from our reporter, Ben Blakely, soon as he reaches the cemetery from our studios. Until then, please continue to enjoy the melodic merriment of the Anthony Fremont Orchestra! Ladies and gentlemen, we again interrupt our program of modern music to bring you this update on the bulletin we reported moments ago. Are we ready? Yes, we now take you live to Meadow Grove Cemetery and our man on the scene, Ben Blakely.
This is Ben Blakely with the North American News Service. I wish that we could broadcast images over our airwaves, because words will not do this scene justice. But I will do my best to convey the background and atmosphere that surrounds what is shaping up to be a truly extraordinary event. I am outside the gates of Meadow Grove Cemetery. Hundreds, maybe even thousands of people have gathered here for what, well, we're not quite sure yet. Right now, the only thing we can see from inside the cemetery is the glow of lights. But there is a sense of anticipation among the crowd. I'd even call it excitement that something big is about to happen. The feeling is palpable. Police are trying to rope off an area around the entrance to the cemetery, but there are just so many people trying to see what's going on that their efforts are futile. I see a fire engine with a ladder, and firemen are attempting to climb it. I can only guess that they're trying to see over the brick walls of this old cemetery. As far as I can tell, the gates to the cemetery are locked, and no one has been able to get in. Wait a minute. I see a police officer close at hand. I'm going to try to move through this mass of humanity and ask him a few questions. Officer.
Yeah.
Officer.
Yeah.
Ben Blakely with the North American News Agency. Can you please identify yourself and tell our listeners what you know about the events that are unfolding?
My name is Officer Dean Foote.
Officer, please, for the benefit of our listeners, tell us, what is going on here tonight?
Well, at this point, Mr. Blakely, there's not much I can say. We received a report of an unidentified glowing light coming from inside Meadow Grove Cemetery. Must have been about 20 minutes ago now.
And when did you get here, Officer Foote?
Well, I got here just as fast as I could, but there was already hundreds of citizens here. We cleared a path to the main entrance gates, but they was locked.
Oh.
And well, shortly after that, the crowd just sort of overwhelmed us, as you see.
Yes.
I'm just trying to keep some order here until the general manager arrives.
Oh, the general manager?
Well, we tried to call out to the ground superintendent. He lives on the premises, you know, but he didn't answer.
What's happened to him?
We don't know. He lives in that shack over there. You can see it through the fence, but everything's dark. Not a peep.
So, you've telephoned the general manager?
That's correct, Mr. Blakely. We have placed a call to a Mr. Ned Washburn. He's the general manager. He's en route to the location with a set of keys as we speak. We expect his arrival at any moment.
I see, Officer Foote. I noticed that the fire department is here with ladders. Why don't they just climb the walls? Why do you need to wait for the keys to the front gate?
Right. We do not believe the situation calls for immediate intervention. The decision has been made by our superiors to control the perimeter and monitor through casual observation any and all incidences occurring within the walls and the gates of the facility.
Very good.
Our first priority is the safety and well-being of the hundreds of citizens on this side of the wall.
Of course.
Until Mr. Washburn makes his presence known at this location, we will continue to assess the situation and take appropriate measures.
Officer Foote, do you personally have any idea what's going on in there?
I would hate to speculate at this juncture, Mr. Blakely. As I've said, we have no information about what is going on inside the cemetery, nor have we made contact with anyone associated with the cemetery. We will know more when Mr. Washburn arrives with the keys and we're able to gain entrance to the ground. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have my duties to perform.
Yes, I see. Ladies and gentlemen, the mystery deepens. To review, I'm here with a crowd that numbers in the hundreds, perhaps thousands, and it is growing larger every moment. There are strange lights emanating from within the Meadow Grove Cemetery, and while we wait for Ned Washburn, the general manager of the cemetery, to arrive to unlock the gates of this facility, rumors are swirling among the gatherers. Let's find out from the citizens themselves what they have heard. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ben Blakely with the North American News Agency.
Oh, what? Well, yes, sir.
Ma'am, may I have a word with you?
Why, certainly.
Please tell us your name and where you live.
Okay, well, my name is Hazel Smith, hi, and I live at 1229 Lyric Lane.
Miss Smith.
That's Mrs. Smith, I'll have you know, my young man.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Now, rumors are racing through the crowd about what's going on in the cemetery. What have you heard?
Well, Mr. Blakely, I'm no gossip, I'll have you know, but I've heard, come closer.
Yes, Mrs. Smith.
Come closer.
Yes, Mrs. Smith.
Closer.
Yes, Mrs. Smith.
Close.
I can't get any closer, Mrs. Smith.
Okay, well, I've heard there's...
Yes, Mrs. Smith.
There's a couple of witches in there, and they're conducting some sort of an ancient ritual. It just has to be an initiation ceremony. I just know it, I do.
Don't listen to that woman. She's off her rocker.
What? Oh, you have some nerve saying things like that about a woman.
You're not a woman. You're my wife.
Okay.
Now, that woman's just plain batty, I tell you.
So, what do you think is going on here, Mr.
Smith, Wilbur Smith. You've met my wife, Hazel, haven't you?
How do you do?
Yes, hello.
So, you know, she's crazy.
I don't think...
Now, look, I mean, we'd all like to believe it's some supernatural occurrence. You know, aliens, a Martian, some nonsense like that. My guess is it's just some fraternity boys pledging their new pledges and hazing them.
Well, if that's the case, how come we got such a crowd? There's got to be more to it than that. We were all lured here for some reason.
And you are?
Oliver Winston
Okay, Mr. Winston.
the Third.
All right, Mr. Winston the Third. What is your angle on the situation?
We're all going to die.
All right then. Thank you very much, Mr. Winston the Third.
Mark my words, this is the beginning of the end, sir. The dead are rising from their graves.
The stories are growing more outlandish by the minute here at Meadow Grove Cemetery as we await the arrival of the general manager, Ned Washburn.
They've been summoned to take over the world. We will become their slaves.
Well, as you can hear, hysteria is beginning to grip this crowd. And Ned Washburn, the general manager of the cemetery, has just arrived. The crowd is surging toward the gates. I'm going to try to get my way to the front of the crowd.
All right, give him room. Give the man some room.
Officer Foote, may I have a few words with Mr. Washburn?
Why, Mr. Blakely, good to see you again.
And you too.
Mr. Washburn, care to say a few words to this reporter from the North American News
Oh,
Agency?
yes, hello. I don't know what all the fuss is about. This happens from time to time, and usually no one notices.
Sir, what are you talking about?
Blackley, is it?
Blakely, sir. Ben Blakely, North American News Agency.
Oh, well, Mr. Blakely, thank you for coming, but there's nothing to be alarmed about.
But the mysterious lights, and the music, and the police, and the firemen, and the crowds of people.
Well, like I said, this occurs just about every full moon, and we've never had a commotion as we've had tonight. I mean, even on Halloween, it's never been this bad.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, if you must know, if all of you must know, let me just open the gates and you'll all see for yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the skeleton dance.
Words cannot begin to describe the scene here at Meadow Grove Cemetery. We, the gathered masses, are watching skeletons, seemingly risen from their graves, dancing and cavorting across the cemetery lawn.
This is so very interesting.
Sir, I seem to have summed up the reaction of this entire assemblage.
I think I might be able to do something with this.
What do you mean?
Never you mind.
Can you at least tell us your name?
Sure. Walter. Walter Disney.
You've just heard a presentation of the Flower Street Players production, Scary Symphony, on KBVS, broadcasting live from the D23 Expo in Anaheim, California. Thank you for joining us today. This concludes our regularly scheduled programming.
Well, we're setting the stage so the guys can do a little Q&A with you. I'm going to bring up Dave Fisher, who actually wrote this program. Dave. So, Matt, how many of you have heard that? How many of you actually went into Oswald's? Very good. We've got a few of you who've heard this show. I hope you've all been on Buena Vista Street. You know what a great thing that is. And one of the things that we decided to do as part of Buena Vista Street, to give it that richness that Main Street has over at Disneyland, is we decided to do some second floor windows, like the dentist, and also a radio show. This radio show, as you can see here, can only be heard in Oswald, so you gotta be real patient and you gotta go hear it. The second floor windows are actually even harder to hear. Has anybody heard those? We have an optometrist's office, we have a dance studio, and we actually have an art studio. And this thing was a blast. I mean, it was a blast to write it. As you can tell, we did a little takeoff on War of the Worlds with Scary Symphony. We did a little takeoff on Amos and Andy with a little show called Hank and Wally, which is a tribute to Frank and Wally, and after they retired, what they do, the adventures of Hank and Wally. We also have the hits of today, circa 1930. As well as you heard, the broadcast of the FF&P Classical Music Hour. And for those of you who are wondering what FF&P is, it's the Fiddler, Fifer, and Practical Cafe, which is located on Buena Vista Street. But in writing something like this, it just sits there on the page. You have voices in your head, you hear these things, you think it's funny, but then you bring in people like this who just totally bring it to life. Some of these people, they're like, what if the line is like this? What if the line is like that? And pretty much this thing comes to life. And one of the reasons we wanted to do it here today at D23 is for the exact same reason that I just demonstrated by asking how many of you have heard this. Not many of you have. It's just one of those hidden things we have. So we thought, what better way than to come out here and perform it for you? I'm glad that these people came out to perform it, to show you what it is, what it takes to do this type of thing, and how good they are. I mean, we just had one rehearsal this morning. They came out here and they nailed it. So I don't want to take up all the time here. So what I want to do is I want to bring Brian back up, and he's going to introduce our actors for you and give them the applause they deserve. Right? Okay, well, we haven't actually introduced our cast, so I'm going to point them out. At the far end is Tim Blaney. The wonderful Candi Milo, sitting next to him. Mr. Bob Joles. The fantastic Philip Proctor. Allen Lulu. And Fred Tattoshore. Well, thank you all. What a huge crowd we got for this, too. I'm really glad you all showed up. I just want to introduce you. Now you've seen them as a group. Now, you may not know all of the names because voiceover people tends to be hidden, but I want to start by introducing you to Philip Proctor, who's sitting in the middle of our audience, one of the founder and members of the Fire Sign Theater, which is probably, yeah.
improv groups that's ever existed. It's kind of our Monty Python. So, Phil, can you talk a little bit about Firesign for us?
Oh, sure. Firesign Theater has been around for about 45 years, believe it or not. And we started on local radio, KPFK, listener-supported radio in the Valley. 4 men getting together. We all happened to be born under the sign of fire. I'm a Leo. We had 2 Sagittarians and an Aries in the group, so we named ourselves Fireside Theater. We were on a show that was created and hosted by Peter Bergman, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. But Peter was the Wizard of Oz, and his show was called Radio Free Oz. And it had a terrific following. It was really the very first counterculture talk show, phone-in talk show. And we used to sit around and assume different characters so that we could put the audience on, and they'd call us up and talk to us. I remember the thing that brought fame to us as the Fireside Theater was we had the Oz Film Festival where we all played different directors and we showed our movies on the radio. And I remember one of the movies was an adult film called Blondie Visits the Dentist. And when that film was shown on the radio, we got calls from angry people saying, "How dare you show a dirty movie on the radio?" And that's when we knew we were on to something. So to make a long story short, we then went on to make records at Columbia, and we were working in the original radio studios, and we did our first recordings. Our first record was called Waiting for the Electrician, or Someone Like Him. And we were working in Bob Hope's old studio, and a studio that Jack Benny used to broadcast from. And it grew from there. We started getting a great following. Our records were layered, complex, and luckily the FM radio revolution happened around the same time, so people could play a 30-minute recording on the air without any interruption. And that's really what led to our fame. So amazingly, we've continued to turn out stuff for 45 years. If you go to firesidetheater.com, you'll see we're now putting out a bunch of books. We put out a book that has 80 hours of our original radio broadcasts from the early days. It has an MP3 in it. It's amazing now, the platforms that are available. So that's been a great career, and that led naturally to my doing cartoon voices and commercials, voiceover work, and Disney and Pixar films. And it's just been a wonderful ride, and I'm delighted to be able to share some of the fun with you guys.
I was looking at your resume, and I saw that you've done, I have Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Toy Story, The Lion King, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Bug's Life, Tarzan, Toy Story 2. It seems like there was a point where you were working on every single Disney film. Are there any particular roles that we would know you from any of those films?
Well, I'm the seahorse dad in Finding Nemo. You're a clownfish, say something funny. You know? But I really, the thing that people know me the most for, and I still get requests for autographs for him, is the Rugrats. I played Howard the nerd on the Rugrats for many, many years. Not a Disney project, Classy Shupo. And we got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in front of the Hollywood Toy Store, which is perfect. And I guess that, but every role I do, and I know this is true for all of us up here, the thing that we enjoy most about voiceover work is that we can become so many different people. And there's so many challenges, they show you a drawing of a character and you have to come up with a voice. And that's the fun of it. So I really consider the profession the most joyful part of it, not any one particular role.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Three of the people on this group I actually only work with on this show, and 3 I have worked with prior to this show. And one of them actually is Bob Joles, who's standing in the middle of the room. Now, Bob Joles, I brought a little audio, and there's a video that plays with it to show you one of the things that Bob did, and I hope that this works, because I'm just a clicking fool. Here we go.
Greetings, my friends. This is Sal, sharing with you a few handy tips. Once on board, be sure to place your supplies and loose items in the pouch in front of you. Now, this is very important. For your safety, you must remain seated with your seatbelt fastened. make sure you keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the transport. Watch your children, and remember, no matter what, do not gaze into the eyes of the idol. Now, Sala wishes you a most wonderful and successful expedition. Thank you all very much.
Now, actually, Bob has done a number of things. He's one of the voices that's in Star Tours. He was formerly the captain on the Mark Twain. We scuttled him recently, but he was there for many years. And then one of my favorite things that you do is the Bodine Bakery, which I know we all rush to when we get to DCA. If you go in and you see that film at the beginning, it's that little intro film. Bob is one of the ones who goes,
It's a very instinctive.
Yeah. But Bob, you shared with me last time, it bears repeating, the first time that you went in the park and heard yourself done, so to speak.
The first time I went in, and I was in the line for the Indiana Jones ride, and it started playing, and you hear, that voice coming out, and you think it's John because you're looking at Sala running around, and my dear sweet wife is standing there, and she says, "That's my husband." He's doing that. That's him. And people are looking at her slightly skeptical. Sure, lady, sure, yeah. Mildred, let's move away from here. It's so surreal to hear your voice coming out of the speakers at a ride or a park that you've been to since you were yay big. And it's one of the greatest things in the world. Every time my brother Gary goes through the ride, he'll point it out to everybody that he's with and anybody that'll listen to him and say, "That's my brother!" So I love working for this company. I love doing the classic voices that I do for Disney character voices.
Including the voice of
Bagheera.
Well, I was going to say Bagheera.
In Jungle Book 2.
I was actually going to suggest from
Snow
White.
Snow White, I am the voice of Sneezy.
Sneezy. Could you do a Sneezy for us?
I'd be sure to watch out for the...
And plus, on an episode of Monk, he was shot in a barber's chair. That was actually very exciting for me to see. So.
Yes, being shot in the barber chair is lovely. Everyone else has to die on the floor. You're in comfort. That was delightful.
Bob Jones. Sitting next to Bob Joles, actually sitting next to Phil Proctor and next to Fred over here in the middle is Allen Lulu. Now, Alan, I also haven't worked with you a lot, but I was looking at your resume. You've been on a lot of TV shows that I like. You were on Coach and The New Adventures of Old Christine and Private Practice, Big Time Rush. That's a new one.
I never get to die, though.
No.
Sometimes. I do feel like my career sometimes is, but not.
So tell me a little bit about your voiceover career, as it is.
Mostly, this is actually the first time I've been able to work with this kind of broad character with a company like this.
Right.
Most of the time, it's a lot of commercial copy. I do mostly that. Occasionally, some video games, which is a lot of dying. That is dying.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of. Can you die a little more aggressively? Sure. And then they want you to die like a little dagger, that kind of thing. And you do that for about 2 hours, and then you get paid and you go home. That's a lot of fun.
Tell us some more about what you're doing. What are you doing right now? Like, what are you doing after now? Now, not today, but what are you doing right now?
Not this afternoon.
Not this afternoon. No.
I'm really fortunate that I've been an on-camera commercial actor a lot. I've done a lot of television, but I love doing commercials. When I was in college, I studied with a fantastic acting teacher named Ann Bogart, who made us do all this experimental, really highbrow stuff, working within grids, and you had to work with very specific parameters. And that all worked for commercials, which I'm sure she thinks is anathema to the kind of art that she liked to do. But you have to work within 30 seconds. You got to get the information out. You have to make it interesting. You have to sell the product. So I've been fortunate enough to appear my face, not as unfortunate for everybody else, in about 183 commercials over my
Wow.
career. And I've been the spokesman or spokes-character for a bunch of products like... Well, no, because they never let me just talk directly to the camera. That's too scary for them. They let me hang off things and go, ah, no, the price is wrong! I do a lot of that. So I've been the spokesman for Very Fine Fruit Juices and DirecTV and A&W restaurants in Canada, which I've been very fortunate enough to do for the last 10 years. IBC Bank, where I'm the spokes bee down in Texas, which I had to dress up in a bee suit and walk around the city. And it's totally awesome to have people go, you're the bee, yes. So that's what we want to ask.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Allen Lulu.
Thank you.
As I told you, 3 of these people I've worked with before on attractions, and one of them is my delightful Candi Milo, who's leaving there. So I just want, now I have to ask, because I know that we all do it, the Luigi's Flying Tires at DCA, have you been on it? Anybody? Yeah, you've been on it? Okay, so you sit in that really long queue line before you get on, and you have to listen to that music. Remember all the Italian songs? Okay, so check this out. Candi Milo. Oh, we should do it. The 3-minute song. Candi Milo. So Candi, I mean, I know that you and I worked on that. We worked on this. And actually, I looked at my files. We worked on Countdown to Extinction together. Do you even know that? I had to actually look you up. So we had met before.
We have met a long time. I had a waist back then. I could bend without making noise. It was a long time ago.
But I have to mention a show that you actually star in. Am I right when I say this? Wait a minute, I'm looking at my own stupid notes, so sorry about it. What show do we all know you from, Candi? Animated show?
Dexter's Laboratory?
That's right, Frank Dexter.
Dexter's Laboratory.
Right?
I'm like your fromage. Sorry, it was a long time.
Dexter's Laboratory. Also, you were on the New Adventures of Jimmy Neutron.
Yes, I played the cool kid Nick D. Yo, nerd bomb. Yo. Plus, I said that I do a lot of boys' voices. It's crazy. That's why I live alone. One of the reasons. I'm working on it.
So tell us a little bit about your voiceover career up to now.
You know, I like Allen Lulu, because it has to be one word, started in on-camera commercials. And I started as a singer. And I met my very first voiceover agents, those many decades ago, by performing and singing, and they came up and handed me a card that said, you should be doing cartoon voices, and I thought, that's so nice, thanks so much. I like the singing. You could hear some comedy in there. Perfect. So I don't know if you guys remember Mervyn's department stores. Remember the crazy open lady? Yeah, that's me. So I don't know if it's because we're the same kind of weird, but I loved making 30-second movies. I did really well in commercials, and I, like him, did lots of campaigns for Pearl Vision and Southern Ford and made hundreds and hundreds of commercials, and then was fortunate enough to be part of that new wave 20 some odd years ago, where I could come into the Hanna-Barbera, Warner Brothers. My very first show was Tiny Toon Adventures, and I played the little bird Sweetie, and I was actually hired by Steven Spielberg, which he said, you know, you were born to do this, and again I went, thanks. Thank you. Thanks so much. Would you like to hear me sing? Only at Disneyland. But I do want you to know that I told Pat and Kathy at CESD if I did Luigi's Tires that I could now die happy. Because I am a voice in a Disney property.
Well, not only that, we recorded that at Capitol Records, the famous Capitol Records building.
I have a photo of my name.
And her name was on the parking spot.
So it was my Facebook profile forever. It was Candi Milo. It's like, I will never get this again. Because the only way that I could do a recording was to do it for a voiceover. It was like, maybe they were right.
But you also said there was a connection. Your mom, you had a connection to because you're Italian.
Yes. So my mom, who is 89, was very excited that not only was I singing in Italian, but singing at the park. But I think the significance of that goes beyond that generation to my daughter's generation, and who's here today. I would like to say that how neat it would be to be my mother's age, God willing, and have her bring her kids and say, that's your grandmother singing. You know, if the song lasts that long, I'm just saying. Who knows, in 20 years' time, the damn cars might actually fly.
Well, we'll bring you back.
Right, exactly, and I'll be 90. Hey, thank you.
Which brings us to, at the end of the panel, my good friend, Mr. Tim Blaney. Now, Tim and I, this is the first time that Tim and I have worked together, unfortunately, but Tim is a fantastic puppeteer. He works with the Muppets. But one thing there's two things that he does that I'm really thrilled that he's here. I'm thrilled he's here anyway. But one is in Men in Black, he is Frank the Pug. Do you know Frank the Pug from Men in Black? That is Tim. And he's also, oh darn it, where's my, oh there it is, from Short Circuit. He's number 5. So, he's a huge star.
Yeah, dogs and robots.
So Tim, just talk a little, we were talking earlier about how did you become a puppeteer? How did that all come together?
It was complete accident. I mean, there are two kinds of puppeteers, basically. The ones that know they're going to be a puppeteer when they're 3 years old, and they just build puppets and make them and everything. And then there's accidental puppeteers who just come at it through acting, and I came at it through art school. I was going to be an artist. And then I got to my junior year and said, well, am I going to be an artist? I don't know. I then looked to find a summer job, and there was this opening at a puppetry studio. Went down there, got hired for the summer, because the man I work for, Tony Urbano, he's a very famous puppeteer. He would find people and say, you know, you can be trained to be a puppeteer. You have it. Some people have it. You can be trained. And he would hire art students and actors and train them, and it turns out I could do pretty good mouth sync. I didn't know that. So he put me in his shows, and then he got a bunch of commercials. We did Chicken McNuggets, and I was the Snuggle Bear for a while, and things like that. So
That's amazing.
completely sort of.
How did Frank the Pug come to you?
Well, Tony, I was working for him, and he was hired by Rick Baker to come in and help coordinate all the puppeteers, because Rick's guys were so busy building all the aliens that he needed, okay, we need to go to set with some people, so we brought in Tony, and Tony brought in me, and we auditioned some other puppeteers. And I was a worm guy. I was one of the guys that poured coffee and it spilled. And then they said, well, they suggested me for Frank the Pug. And Rick Baker had this idea to put dog teeth and pug makeup on an actor and film that, and then put that on the live dog. And they suggested me to do the voice, and I came in and I did it. And they filmed me. They actually made dog teeth for me. They flew me up to ILM and put dog cheeks on me, filmed me, and then sent me home. And I didn't get a picture of it. So they actually didn't, they used that as reference. The ILM animators actually digitally animated Frank's mouth. But, and I got a picture.
So you always get a picture. So, talk about Muppets. How did you get involved with them?
Well, they have auditions, and they bring you in, and they train you and see you. And I had been working for Tony Urbano for a while, and they knew of me. They would bring me in when they have big projects, and they're in LA, and they say, all right, bring in the usual suspects, and you get to be, I think it was Guy Smiley, the news guy, once, in the latest Muppet movie.
But you were, we were talking earlier, at the 29 D23, you came in with the Muppets, they did a big...
Yes, I was on that boat that came rolling in on stage. I got to do Rizzo the Rat. He's a great Muppet. He's got a great control. You can like move everything with your thumb. You can move his head up and down and the side. That was an honor to be Rizzo.
Oh, fantastic. And voiceover. Talk a little bit about your voiceover life.
Well, I came into it through the puppetry. I got cast as Johnny Five by doing the puppetry on the set, doing the voice, and so and that's how I also got in front of the Pug. And so when I was always a shy kid, I always played around with voices, and so this just gives me an opportunity to go in and play and not be seen. Not like these on-camera people. I like to be either under or behind or on the side.
Finally, at this end of the panel is my good friend Fred Tattoshore. Now, Fred, I have worked with quite a bit. Fred, if you are familiar with Space Mountain, Fred is the voice that tells you to keep your arms, legs, hands, and feet.
Welcome back, space travelers. 10, 9, 8, 7.
I'm not triggering that. That's really it. That's really it. He's also the Gungan in Star Tours.
You're in big trouble now. Yes.
And when we announced Star Tours at the 29 D23, he did Darth Vader at the announcement. Did anyone remember that?
They call me Tim Vader. I'm the third struck Vader, yes. It's good to see you all here at D23.
One thing that Fred, when I need a scary monster, I go to Fred immediately, and I want to show you, and I hope that this triggers right, but I want to show you, I'm going to play you what Fred did, what he recorded. Okay, you're going to hear this. This is the recording that we did in the booth. Okay, hang on one second. The character. Is it done? Okay.
I just want to be loved. Why is that so hard?
Now this is how it sounds in the. This is for Expedition Everest at Walt Disney World's Animal Kingdom. Here's what it sounds like in the field. And it's all Fred.
He's pretty.
Thank you. Fred, now that we've gotten involved with Marvel, I can talk to you about one of the characters you do for Marvel is
Hulk. That's right.
Fred is the voice of the Hulk.
Thank you.
So I have to ask you, how did you end up becoming the Hulk?
I don't know. Why do you ask so many questions?
That was just one.
Oh, sorry. I was told there wouldn't be math. I used to be a biologist.
Well, no, I've been so blessed to walk in those green feet for the last 8 years, and it started with some video games, and then it was the Hulk Versus series, where he was a savage beast, and then onto one Avengers series, where then he was sort of the reluctant hero, and then now we're on to Avengers Assemble, and that's on right now, and it's he's happy to be part of the team, and he's hanging out at Tony Stark's tower, And then we have a new show called Hulk and the Agents of Smash. And that's coming up, and that's where Hulk has kind of evolved further down the evolutionary scale. He's actually trying to be peaceful, and he can speak in complete sentences. He's trying to move along like the comics. And so that's just, how I got into it was pretty much just the regular getting into the audition and just trying to throw at it. I've been so, I was so into that character growing up, watching the Bill Bixby series, Lou Ferrigno, and also obviously the cartoons voiced by Dan Cassidy.
How did you find out you could do that kind of voice? I mean, that whole scary thing, because you did, when we were doing the Yeti, we were in the booth for a long time.
Yes, we were. It's just like playing an instrument. You just sort of practice and you sort of realize, oh, I can open up this part of my throat and project out to be, and connect to whatever the creature is, or in Hulk's case, the humanity of the character, still being a scary monster, but what is he underneath? So it's a really fun, as a voice actor, it's a really fun place to play, because you get to play with sort of opposites, you know?
Right. And now, so right now you're going to be in Planes, I believe, right?
Yes. I play just a myriad of characters in Planes, here and there. I play some Zen monks. Yes, that is the question you must hear, yes. And some of the guys, like soldier type guys, are going to land you on the aircraft carrier. And a couple of really whoa, dude, wow, what's happening type guys, yeah.
Could you do me a favor? Would you do your Morgan Freeman for me?
Oh, man, it's all right. It's good to be here. I've been 23. Andy Dufresne marched all the way with those penguins. I knew exactly where he was going. It's nice to be here. I think that our killer knows that death is the #1 killer.
We don't have a lot of time, but I want to go and just talk to you. I'm just starting with you, Phil. How did you get your start in voiceover? I mean, I know you started with the fire sign, but when you transitioned to becoming basically what you are today, which is a phenomenon, how did that start?
Well, when I was a baby in Goshen, Indiana, this is where it started. My grandparents realized they were singing a lullaby to me, and I hummed it back. And it was then that we all realized I had inherited a particular ability to hear and repeat music. All of my family can sing and harmonize, and I was born with that wonderful gift. And so I used to mimic comedians that I liked. Bob and Ray were two of the ones I loved, and Ernie Kovacs, and I used to record things on my own just at home. And it was through Firesign Theater, when we were doing so many different voices on our records, that I realized I should probably do this commercially. And I went out like everybody else did and looked for an agent. And I had, a lot of voices they could listen to from Firesign. And I signed, and now I've been with CESD for almost 2 decades. And they're just a wonderful, wonderful agency. Some of our agents, Pat and Kathy, are out in the audience right now. And they work so hard for us to give us opportunities to audition for things and to use our talents. And that's really, how it continues along. I mean, I turned 73 last Sunday, and I'm still doing it.
Candi, how did you get your start?
I really was Steven Spielberg on Tiny Toon Adventures. I had auditioned. I was getting ready to quit the business, so I had shown up to the audition in a ball gown and army boots because I was done. And I didn't have any material, so they said, you just tell, I did a children's story, so I just did the 3 Little Pigs, and I made them suicidal, and the wolf was kosher. And I just made it up and did all these little voices, and I walked out, and this guy in a baseball cap in the back grabbed my arm and said, you should do this. And I thought, oh my God, you look just like Steven Spielberg. That's so weird. And then I realized, oh my God, and I thought I should listen to the guy who made E.T. And I did, but like Phil, I was in the original company of Dreamgirls, and an all-African-American musical, and Michael Bennett, the late Michael Bennett, used to grab me and go, okay, now sing like her, and sing like her. And I think that the ability to mimic, and I think thinking fast, it was kind of a natural. But it began in singing and then transitioned through, all right, I'll go on this cartoon audition. And I really felt like I found home. Really neat people, complete actors, not needing to worry about face. And I will tell you, Phil is 73, I am a female, way over 23. And I am still working, and it's one of the last bastions of show business where what I look like means nothing, makes no difference, and what... You look pretty good. Well, thank you. That's so sweet. Yes, thank you.
Alan, what about you? Mike him.
Allen Lulu.
I'll take both. Stereo. I was very fortunate to have a fantastic agent, who is my agent today, Pat Brady, and sent me out, got me some fantastic on-camera commercials, and one day I had an audition for something where I don't even remember the audition. I have no recollection of it. I walked into Margarita Mix, which is a sound recording studio in a haze, walked into the booth, and there was Eddie Deason and Mitzi McCall and Dan Castellaneta, who's the voice of Homer Simpson, and I thought, what am I doing here? And for 3 hours I went, but you were near the tree! And that's all I did for 3 hours. And it was a fantastic time. We had a blast in the booth, and I just kept doing that with very little variation, because I was new. And it paid really well, and it was a great gig, and I just loved that. That was my first gig, and I love every minute that I'm in the booth. It's really, you can't explain well, at least I can't, what a treat it is to work with some of the people that you get to work with if you are fortunate enough to do this in the booth, which is very different than being on set where there's a lot of pressure and a lot of mishigas and stuff going on. Yeah, you get to be in the booth with Fred or Phil or Candi or any of the people that do this for a living. And it's fun, it's playtime, it's a blast. You can just keep trying new things. And then they say, oh, let's take that little snippet right there and put that in, and that's a day's work. It's fantastic.
How did you get started?
I got started initially as a professional musician. I was playing tuba at Epcot when it first opened in the Maple Leaf Brass, and I did that for 5 years, and then transitioned to the music library. And during the time in the library, I had picked up a brand new book by this woman, Sue Blue, who we have all probably worked for at one point or another. And it was called Word of Mouth, and it was all about breaking into commercial and animation voiceover. And I was talking to my friend Dennis Moore, who was the morning classical host on the public radio station in town, and we were having dinner, and I was telling him about the book, and he said, well, we should go to the studio one night and put your demo together. So I put copy together, he directed me, and this was back in the day of 10-inch reel-to-reel, and the man was a surgeon with the precision that was just unbelievable, and the speed of being able to edit everything and dropping music beds from CDs on this stuff. And I started chopping a 2.5-minute tape around town in Orlando. It's a non-union town. I mean, you can be in the union, but you get a lot more work being non-union, and I wasn't in that union at the time. So I started getting work off of it almost immediately, and there was a guy, Bob Barnes, who kind of took me under his wing, and I started working almost non-stop. Every week I was doing another ad for the Orlando Sentinel as a different character. And my very first one for them was called Mr. Skeptical. And I just didn't believe anything that anybody was telling me. That's how I was Mr. Skeptical. And they brought him back a lot, but I did all kinds of stuff for them, and it was a great training ground. And from there, the agent I had in Orlando had a connection to Don Pitts here in Los Angeles, who was one of the stalwarts. He was under Charlie Stern, who had the very first voiceover agency. And Don, I came and played my tape for Don, or actually I had planned on giving it to him, and he actually sat there with me next to him listening to it, and it was the scariest time of my life. And because he never laughed or giggled or anything, he just sat there and went, for 2.5 minutes, and then all of a sudden, I'm just going, oh God, he doesn't like it, I'm going to have to go back to Orlando now. And he said, well, Bob, that was really great. Wide variety of characters, really classy stuff there. When are you moving to town? And that was the start of my Los Angeles voiceover career.
Wow,
So.
fantastic. And Tim, just remind me, now how did you get started doing the puppets? I mean, how did that actually walk in the door?
I was studying fine art at UCLA.
Right.
And it, got to a point where I said, what am I going to do with fine art? I don't know. I was considering transferring to Cal State Long Beach and becoming an illustrator, because they have a better program there. And I got a summer job with the puppet show, with doing puppets in Laguna Beach with Tony Urbano. And he heard me doing voices backstage and said, I'm going to audition you for this commercial we're doing. And it was Muppet-style puppets for a bank in Arizona, local. Yeah, they kind of a Pat Buck from Mask kind of character. And ended up getting the part, and then he had work for the next 25 years. So it's just kind of accidental being, playing with voices. I also blame Monty Python. I was in high school when they came out, and they told me to speak on a British person. Just by listening and mimicking, it's key. It's kind of being able to listen and mimic back, and you just get to play with the dolls and do voices. What more do you want?
Fred, finally, tell us how you got your start.
Well,
30 seconds or less.
30 seconds. Do the quick version. The little kid went to the haunted mansion, heard Paul Frees go, "Welcome, foolish mortal." And I was hooked ever since. I started making tapes, recording. That turned me into stand-up comedy. That got me into improv. That got me into theater and doing some music. And I was an animator all along, so I was doing voices for other people's films. That, like Bob, got me to Don Pitts. Pat Brady then forged me into who I am as a voice actor and brought me to CESD, where Kathy Lizio actually keeps me alive. And that's it.
That's it.
Oh, Pat.
It was wonderful having you here. I'm glad you all showed up. Tell your friends what they missed, please. We're going to be going from here. We're going down to the talent roundup. We'll be there if you want to sign autographs, take pictures, ask more questions. We'll be there for about an hour, starting at 11:45. So thank you very much for joining us.